I'm going to do the dance of joy that my friend Jacques has finally come completely onto the other side of nerddom. He was riding the fence. Oh, I'm a jock. No, now I'm a nerd. No, now you're a full-time nerd, baby. All the way. Gain an extra 50 pounds pounding away those snacks. No exercise for you. It's just sitting around playing games, watching TV. Milk chugs, more like milk chugs than milk duds. How do they call them milk duds when everyone is a winner? They're not. There's not. I've yet to find an actual dud. I seem to have struck a chord or broke a brain, one or the other.
So, is my horn ready yet?
Yeah, it's ready. Should be loud enough for you now.
Well, where is it? Let's hear it.
Wait, I want to talk to you first.
You are talking to me.
No, I want your undivided attention. Look, Pee-wee, this is important. There's someone I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
want to know if you'll do something.
What?
I want to know if you'll go someplace with me.
Like where?
The drive-in.
Look, Daddy, I like you. I like you.
That's the thing. I like you, too.
Daddy! There's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, Daddy. Things you wouldn't understand. Things you couldn't understand. Things you shouldn't understand.
I don't understand.
You don't want to get mixed up with a guy like me. I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
Hello, and welcome to Carnival Personnel. This is Jacques.
I'm Joe.
Sadly, we have no Biff, who's, he's under the weather again, which, is a little concerning for me and everybody else. And, of course, that clip that we just heard in lieu of my bad jokes was from, I don't know, is it a top 10 favorite movie of yours, Joe?
Yeah, maybe top 5.
Pee-wee's
Big Adventure. Like one of the first, I didn't have cable growing up, but I did have a VCR. And what I did do was when that aired on the CBS, Saturday night movie edited for television, I taped it because of course, fucking Pee-wee. And I played it out. I even remember that there was a part where he's sitting in the dinosaur with the girl from oh god, what's her name? The girl from she was the waitress there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, when they're in the dinosaur, there was like a special news report that came in on my recording, and I always associate that scene with a special news report in my mind because I'm a broken child.
Do you remember what the report was?
I don't know. I think I'd have to go back. You know what? I'm sure that somebody out there on YouTube has uploaded that segment, in like some sort of, commercial package or whatever.
Right.
But, I'd have to look back. You know what? Next podcast, I'll be back with that information.
I hope so. And it's funny because I was saying I just had lunch with friend of the podcast, Ronak, and I was saying that in the oeuvre of the inside jokes, management and I decided a long time ago that we can never get divorced, not because of the kids or because of our undying love. There's just too many inside jokes between us. And I said, and same with Joe, it's like there's just too much. And I think between the three of us, I don't think a week goes by, and I mean this, where I don't say there's no basement in the Alamo. I really don't. Of all the quirky things that I say, that we say, that tell him Large Marge sent you. Um,
I'm a loner, a rebel.
Right. I mean, and that's been going on since 85.
Yeah. What's the significance? I don't know.
It's like
I don't train monkeys. I don't make monkeys. I just train them. Oh, Pee-wee, listen to reason. Oh, come on.
Knitting and knitting and knitting.
And of course, we're remembering Pee-wee Herman because sadly Paul Reubens passed away the day before this recording.
And the sad, it's been a tough week. Sinead O'Connor died earlier this week. And then, the one that kind of hits home personally is our friend Woody, who was on the podcast just about a year ago. His absolute bona fide World War II hero dad passed away.
Oh,
95,
sorry.
peacefully in his sleep, in Arizona. I'm so lucky to have got to meet that guy a few times. We talked about the most amazing story. It was a typical story, but amazing story. I mean, Woody's dad, all of 5'4". I don't think he was 5'5", topped the scale at 120 pounds, actually, for a local news piece about 2 years ago, put on his old sailor uniform that still fit. I mean, it was amazing, but there's this amazing story. I'll tell it just real quickly that we told on that podcast. He sees real action in the South Pacific, and there is a huge storm, and he's on a destroyer, and they're all under deck, and the ship is being thrown around like the USS Minto, and they hear something rolling around up top, and everyone's like, "Oh crap, that's one of the depth charges. Somebody has to go up and secure that thing before they blow up their own ship." This is before like safety harnesses and OSHA, and he volunteers to go up. They tie a rope around him. that was it. He goes up and instantly is blown off the boat. And it was one of those things. It's like, even if you're strong and you're expecting the jerk of the rope, a couple guys like let go of the rope. Somebody dove, caught the rope. He's flying around like a kite. It literally, and finally, it was just a barrel, secures it, bring him back inside. It's an amazing story. And he was telling that story for like 40, 50 years. And Woody and everything, the whole family's like, we've heard the story, Dad. Well, about 15 years ago, and I was privy to when this, meeting all came about. Other side of the country, there's an entire other family who've been, yes, we heard the story, Dad. You jumped and you grabbed the rope and pulled the guy back, and they had never seen each other since then. And they have been telling these stories. And then because it's a small world, somebody knew somebody who knew Woody, who knew somebody, and they got them together after like 60 years.
Fantastic.
Just a few years back. Yeah, you hear these stories. It's like these people have these harrowing in the trenches on these boats for a couple years during the most horrific times of their life, and the war's over and you go left and I go right, and they never, some people stay close, but just drifted. And it was great that they didn't stay close, but they've been telling these same stories, and they finally connected. But so Woody's dad passed comfortably, was able to maintain his own pass away in his own house. And Woody was just a hero going back and forth between LA and Phoenix to take care of his dad. Woody's a great guy. His dad was a bona fide hero. Sinead O'Connor passing. And of course, I mean, just Sinead O'Connor was great. I mean, I was a huge fan. I mean, we won't get into the political stuff, that she was so right and so ahead of the curve, and it cost her career speaking out 30 years ago. Of course, she speaks out on Saturday Night Live a few years before Spotlight, the movie, comes out, which wins the Academy Award and all that stuff. And those people
that was 20 years later, but yeah.
20, yeah. But she was right, and she was amazing, and Nothing Compares to You, written by Prince, one of the greatest songs ever written, and her version recorded. And then of course, like Pee Wee Herman, that just Yeah, I'm 15 when that comes out, 16 when that comes out. I don't know how many times I saw it in the theater. I don't. I didn't have HBO. So that was one of those things. That was my introduction to him. And then a couple years later, when we got cable and it was the old show was running, and it's like a Bob Saget thing. It's like, it was a rated R show on HBO Max.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Pee Wee Herman show from the 81.
Right.
82. Yeah.
That he franchised to kid versions the next
Dude,
30 years.
I mean, his troubles aside, he was literally, he was an icon who ushered in a decade. Think about that.
Yeah.
The 80s are breaking, like this sort of LA new wave kind of this alt comedies coming out of this scene, and he's right on the forefront, and he busts onto the scene. And then he transitions like almost irresistibly, but like you would think that this couldn't be somebody who could play for, I guess, I don't know, it's weird. He was playing a kid, but an adult version of a kid show that eventually became a legit kid show. Right. That was, beloved by my generation and younger. Geez, and that movie, I mean, and Tim Burton owes his career
100%
to Paul Reubens.
No,
we can get into it more in depth later or at some other time. Maybe we'll do a sideshow on it.
I think of all the sideshows he's done, that would be worthy. Speaking of sideshow, last week's guest, Mike Controbus, or as his good friends call him, Steve.
Good friends being the host of podcasts that he's on.
We don't have to go in the weeds on that. But yeah, no, and I've chatted with him a couple times since. Like I said, it was just the only thing I like more than talking about comedy is dad stuff. And I'm an older dad. I got a late start. He got a late start. It was just fun talking dad stuff and comedy. And he's hosting a hosting workshop that I cannot wait to take when I get back. But again, just a huge shout out to Mike, who, it's funny, the one when we did go Steve Bjork a few weeks back, a couple months back now, it was a show that Mike hosted, you know what I mean? So if he's not headlining himself, he's hosting a show. Just a really, really good guy. So thank you again to Mike, Controbus, for coming on, and I will give a full update when I take his hosting thing. So as we're recording, it's usually me and Joe and in the shadows of the shitty of Boston talking to Biff out here in California. But this week I'm out here in California talking to you.
Yeah. So I guess you're not coming back, right? You're gonna just find a way to just stow away somewhere in the bowels of. I mean, there are a lot of unhoused in LA. Why not make one?
I got
more?
the look.
Yeah, exactly.
Like got my unhoused union card.
Oh man, but seriously, I mean, right? I mean, I'm sure the moment you set foot off the plane, you were home, and you were figuring out a way to like cancel that round trip flight.
There is this. And as we were going down the escalator to it, I told I'm with the 13-year-old Squishy, and I told him, it's like, yeah, when we turn this corner, you're going to remember this really creepy long hallway that if you don't remember it, you've seen it in 100 movies and TV shows. It is the most LAX thing that is. There's, if the terminal that we land in, the JetBlue one, it's got to be 200 yards. And it's tile, like late 60s, 70 tile. It's the fluorescent lighting that the bulbs are working at about 65% capacity.
I think Stanley Kubrick designed it.
Thank you. And I had posted that it is so unnerving, yet comforting to me because it means I'm home,
yep.
So to speak, as soon as I did get off the plane. Now, let's go over the yin and yang. Yes. Here's something that always cracks me up, about LA. Who fucking takes my phone calls? Who has lunch with me? Who refers to me as their friend? It's funny because a couple weeks ago, I found out about this little local comedy show in Lowell that some of the cool kids are part of that's been going on for a while. I reached out and I kept going, oh, well, I host it, but I don't really run it, or I run it, but I don't really pick like so many people. It's like, it's this little cable access show that it's like, I can't get on, which is fine. Absolutely fine. And then there's a couple, I'll see, just there's a couple other cool shows that I've seen people do these deck top things. I'm like, oh, I know all the comics up there. We've had half of them on the podcast, but I don't get invited to some of the cool guy things, which is more than okay. I don't fit in a lot of the clubs, which is great. I don't mind, but it's like one of those things. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of the outsider looking in with a lot of stuff. I get off the plane here, and on last Friday, Monday, I have lunch with Bill Fay, who created Legendary Pictures, who right away says, hey, I bought the rights to Happy Texas, which, I might make you watch it. Steve Zahn and William H. Macy.
Steve Zahn, by the way, killing it in Righteous Gemstones this season.
We will get to that in a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
joking. No, we won't. It's at the end of the rundown. It's at the end of the rundown. Are you caught up?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk at the end of the rundown. But it's this 1999 or 2000, and he bought it. They've hired the playwright, so the play's written. They're probably going to do a 6-week run in Seattle. I talked to him about my cousin Jimmy, and I'm like, hey, he's produced these 2 plays. Maybe we can get some casting. But so I'm talking to Bill, who created Legendary Pictures. And it's funny because just the night before, I watched The Watchmen again, which I've seen 1,000 times, and now
who watches The Watchmen?
Thank you. And I just started doing the movie, and Squishy is like, oh, is this the movie where the guy says, I'm not locked up in here with you, you're locked up in here with me? and it's like, yep, that's who we're having lunch with tomorrow. I just before, logging on and you and I chatting, I just talked with Ronak, who, was on the podcast a while ago, which I'm going to talk about Ronak again in a second. But Ronak bought 6 shows from me. We developed 3 other shows. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so these TV executives who are huge, who have shows on the air, produce the Batman movie and The Hangover, and they take me to lunch and they're like, here's a job, please move back here. And yet I can't get invited onto the Golden Toilet Show on Lowell Access. It's like, okay, it's like I did the show. I'll talk about that in a second. But I did a big showcase Saturday night here at a big place. I got the Comedy Store coming up. I have the Federal Bar and the Knitting Factory booked by Dante the Comic and Sally Mullins, huge people. Saturday night LA showcases, and I can't get on a Wednesday night cable access thing down the street.
Well, do you even sell methamphetamines? I mean, what the hell?
Oh man, but it is. It is. So I go to F&H, which Friday Night Hockey. I see Biff. Dude, this killed me. So I get there early, or earlier than I thought, and I'm like, I'm not going to go in and watch crappy hockey. I'm just going to go in around 11:30, 15 minutes before it wraps up, and then I'll meet the guys out in the parking lot. And my friend and John text me saying, hey, where are you? I did not know that John wasn't playing because he's on injured reserve, and Al, the toy man who we've had on the podcast, was there, and another friend. 3 of them who were not playing drove the hour just because we were all going to hang out together. It's like, oh my fucking God. Like when you have people driving across the state on a Friday night and dealing with that just to hang out.
When you come to town, it's an event.
It really, and so there's a bunch of people I don't know, and it's become an event. It's like I used to just bring, when the old guy Paul hurt his back, I started bringing the beer and the water for him and the soda, and John paid for it. I went and got it. It was all. Now John, and I will post a picture, dude, in the back of his car, it's a full bar. And I mean that. I mean like 20 different kind of liquors and all this. It is insane. And they start smoking cigars now, which gross. But so I'm sitting in. So it's a big semicircle. So it's, I'm downwind. I'm upwind of it. I don't, it doesn't blow my way. They're very respectful of that. But there's one guy I don't know, and he's making the rounds. He's shaking people's hands, and he comes by. I'm sitting in a chair, and they're like, "Hey, I can't remember his name." I'm like, "I'm Jacques." He takes one step, goes to shake Biff's hand. He goes, "Wait, you're Jacques." And then he looks back over my shoulder, looks at Tommy and John, and they both start nodding their head. And the guy's like, "Okay, I'm going to stay a little while." Just have good food. And it was like, it was really, so our podcast, there's no reason we do it. There's no reason we started. And there's no reason we continue it. However, I see All-Star Tommy at FNH, and you have become like, by the way, his wife adores you. Absolutely
Nice.
adores you. His daughter thought you were the funniest guy. They had such a great night with us. Tommy cannot get it through his head that no, you are not. You have more dignity and self-respect to start doing stand-up like me, and he cannot understand why.
Either that, or I think my middle age is actually further down the line than it actually is. And my crisis is, yeah.
Okay, so maybe in 6 years.
Yeah.
So Tommy he's like, and he's not arguing with me, but he's trying to understand. It's like, but but he does this, and every time you have a comic on it, they say it's funny. I'm like, I know. You're only frustrating me more, Tommy.
Here's the secret, and I'll tell everybody now. Small doses. Small doses. You don't want 15 minutes of me trying to formulate jokes and enunciate and be charming or whatever. Trust me, I stink as a human being and as a performer. So I mean, just doing this podcast, there's a reason why I only speak 1/16 of the time that you are listening to. By the way, I had this thought during the Mike Petrobus sideshow. I want to put out a special sideshow where you only hear Mike Petrobus. Literally only, that's all you hear. Not like long spans where you don't hear you. Like, edit you out and see how long the podcast is.
4 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
With the intro.
Right. Including the wow or yeah, like those types of things. The one-word answers.
Dude, I'm the worst. I when I have to play these things back just to make sure I'm uploading the right file, because done it more than once. And I'm like, I'm spacing out, like, just to check the audio here and there. It's like, and I'll space every 5 minutes, like, to scroll. I'm like, nope, still me. Nope, still me. No, have you breathed yet? Nope, still me.
And then I texted you when you finally published the sideshow. And I have Apple Podcasts, and when you see the title of our episode pop up, you're like, okay, it's an episode titled this, or here's the guest of the sideshow. Your description preamble of Mike Petrobus's credits in the description of our episode was so long you couldn't see Mike Petrobus's name. It was, Carnival Personnel Sideshow, comedian, dad, XYZ, Mike Petrobus. Like, you had to hit agree to some sort of terms and conditions of our podcast to see Mike Petrobus's name for that episode. So that's why I texted you afterwards. It's like, if I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. First the guest name, then the rambling.
Puppet show.
Yeah, then puppet show.
Well, it's funny because the one time I got it right, I titled the podcast Ronak ! That was it. that was that. So I'm sitting there talking to All-Star, who's talking about how his daughter, who you met, and we went to Nick's, had a great time, all this stuff. So wants to work in the industry, but behind the camera, but doesn't know where. And so here Tommy says, so I told her, and I sent her the episode with Ronak. Because Ronak, and he goes, I remember Ronak talking about, it was really great. Like, it's so old fashioned, but get a job in the mailroom at CAA, answering phones, and see who this person takes calls from and who they don't return. And sometimes it's a bigger name that they don't call them back. Why? And you figure it out, and then you become friends with all the other agents, gatekeepers, and assistants, and then you come up the ladder. But you really find out, you stick it out for 2 years, and you'll know, oh, I want to be an agent. Oh, I want to be a manager. Oh, I want to be. And it was really great that Tommy was saying what a reference that episode was, and I just was able to tell Ronak that at lunch. So it was really nice. So It was shitty 400 episode of me rambling with you having 4 words every 3 episodes. At least that one really resonate with somebody, in a really positive way.
Yeah, no, you do good. You do good.
broke, as Paul Ruger says, broken clocks right twice a day. But dude, it just cracks me up. It's like, Jim McHugh has asked, to help him, do a project, and I'm looking for a tech person. And I reached out to a couple of people who were like almost beneath doing it. I'm like, you realize that guy runs the Boston Comedy Festival and owns 3 clubs in New Hampshire. And the fact that some of these kids are just so sure that, oh, they don't have to network or play the game, you know what I mean? Or to get these connections, that their comedy is so good, it's going to bleed right through. And I'm like, dude, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I didn't work in the mailroom at CAA, but you and I were literally where we worked at that producer's post in Burbank. Yes or no? Straight up sweatshop.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see so much sweating, but yes, I agree.
The poor guys in the back of the mail, but packing
Yes.
up all those things that we did and stuff like that. But it's like, it was through that I worked my ass off, and somebody from Touch My Angel was like, hey, you are not the dumbest person. Come be abused on our show. You know what I mean? And it's like, I worked my way up. And it's funny when people are like, oh, so many people, you're so connected. It's like, yes, because every time somebody said, hey, here's an opportunity to do this or to work with this person, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll figure it out. But anyways, it's just so that's something that I like about being out here, and why, this is home to me. That said, as cliche as it is about the cost of living, Yep, gas is about $6 a gallon. I went to the store, and the little guy who goes through a bottle of Heinz ketchup a week, and it's about $2.50 to $3.25 at Market Basket. And it's about $7 here. So the things do cost a little more.
Can't get it cheaper in Mexico and bring it over.
It's just the slight bit of a drive, and of course, so I do. I have a car here that is great, but it gets 8 miles a gallon. It's a 2001 Ford F50. I have a house here that is great, but
the Ford recall.
But no, it is. It's hard. Like every time I'm here, and again, before I came out here, because of Sally, I'll dive into that. So, I did my first showcase on Saturday. It was really great. It was, what was great is management who zoomed in was like, oh, I saw All-Star Tommy's name and Dan Cray's name and Ross's name. And so there was really nice that a bunch of people
Did you see my name?
No, did not, but she doesn't know to look, under any one of your aliases. Turd Ferguson might have popped up. Funny name, Turd Ferguson. Yeah. But here's the problem. It was a small club. It was great. They have this outdoor and it's in this indoor outdoor, and depending on how nice it is, they move it outdoor. There was supposed to be 5 comics, 2 got added on. The quality was fantastic. The problem for me is because so many people logged on to the Zoom and showed up to see me, they moved me right before the headliner and gave me an extra 5 minutes.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, okay.
Oh no.
It was funny.
Too good.
Actually, I bought the little guy. And it was funny because, of course, a couple comics noticed, sitting in the back and pointed it out, and they're like, oh, I hope this is okay with him, and I just put my hands on, it's fine. But at one point, when I do the bit about being super jealous, it's like, you would give anything to see this again for the first time. Like, you would sell your second kid's kidney. And, gets a laugh. And I'm like, if you got a second kid, you get that. A lot of people looked at him and was like, he must be the second kid. They figured that out a little bit, a little bit early. But no, dude, it was super fun. Tao Comedy. It's a workshop. It's a showcase place. It's owned by Sally Mullins' best friend, Bobby, who herself, you look her up, she has TV credits, up the wazoo. Her and her husband have been running this place, both touring comics for decades. Absolute sweethearts, like absolute sweethearts. Just the vibe of their place was fantastic. here was the fun thing. Every comic stayed, and as did their friends, almost like it was a real comedy show at a real place on a Saturday night, and people were there to laugh, So by the time
Weird.
I went up there, there's still like 40 people, you know what I mean, who paid $15 to see this and laughed, at the right place. Where again, I was so happy when I do that. What's a show you'd like to see again? And somebody says a show, like the first time I did it, somebody said Breaking Bad, and I just finished watching Breaking Bad, so I'm like, oh my god, the part in the desert when he says "say my name," and I really bond with the guy. Well, this guy, one of the guys is like Venture Brothers, and I'm like, oh, at the end of season 1 when you find out there's clones, and the guy's like, yes, it's crazy. So everybody could feed off our excitement, like, oh man, super jealous of watching that. And then when I take the left turn, it was like, it really worked. It really helps sells the subterfuge. But it was really fun. Like I said, I have to turn something down tomorrow because we'll get into that. European football takes
yes.
Again. But then, Sally Mullins is hosting the show at the Federal Bar on the 8th, which my cousin is back in town from. And so he will be going. Some of his SNL friends will be going, but yet that still won't help me get on the Golden Boot showcase at the Knittering Factory in front of half the Growlings Theater. But it's fine. It's good. I'm fine. How are you?
It's not your crowd, I guess. I don't know.
Dude.
You're better. You're just better than them. That's all. You're better than them.
No, and they're great. But I just think it's funny. It's like, who returns my calls? Who calls me? Who's been on the podcast and because it's funny.
You're like the guy who came out from like another country who used to be royalty, but now he's an Uber driver. Like that's you in Boston. It's just like, in LA, I'm kind of a big deal. Oh yeah, well here you can't get on the Golden Toilet Comedy Hour or whatever.
Well, it's funny because you think it's like there's been so many people I do open mics with who, I don't know if I want to do your little podcast. Steve Bjork, sure. Mike, yep. Sure. Dante the comic, sure. Like he manages 300 internationally touring comics, but this guy who's been doing comedy for 3 months at the Safe can't seem to find the time to chat with us. And good for them. I applaud. I applaud their integrity. So now moving on to other things. My oldest, lifeguard this summer, as I've said to Joe, and I don't know if anybody but you would get this. Maybe a few people. Ronak got it. He is a lifeguard at a city pool in the city of Lowell. It's right in the worst part of Lowell. It is literally, I don't know the right term for where a lot of the people live in very confined housing, not a jail across the street. And I know what we used to call these places. I don't know the right terms. And there's
low income housing.
Very low, yeah. And then there's 2 unhoused shelters at the end of the street. One way, there's the non-denominational church, which feeds breakfast and lunch on the other side of the park. There's a lot of tents in between, and he is working in a Norman Lear sitcom where the casting person said, all right, we need an Asian girl, we need a Dominican guy, we need a black kid. Oh, let's long-haired white kid. Okay, you're over here, you're the token white kid. And it's great. It's so, that's the part, all the lifeguards, it is so diverse and it's so fun, and the kids are really good. They're having a good time. It's funny how many times he's got hit on, and it weirds him out that, when he has to tell somebody, I'm 15. And then they're like, I was giving you this number in case somebody asks you a question you shouldn't ask. So it's fun. But he only had, because he's not supposed to, we're not in Arkansas. They still have child labor laws here, but it's only 6-7 weeks, and he doesn't mind. But he's working 7 days a week, and
interesting.
Or he's supposed to work 6 days, but anyways, so
he works 5 days and volunteers too. That's how
I think that's what it is. But he likes making money, feels good about it. But he had 2 days off, and he's like, "Can we go do like a road trip?" I'm like, "Let's go." So I came home from doing the safe a couple of weeks ago, pulled in the driveway around 10:30, 11, took a quick shower. We were in the car by midnight. We were in Times Square at 3:30 in the morning, and we get out, we walk around, and the boys they just love that. They love just that there's a place that's so alive. The food carts, the people pouring out of the bars and restaurants that still have a half hour before closing time, walked around Rock Center, all that stuff. And then we got in the car, we drove an hour, to the rest stop near the Six Flags. We're going to roll in first thing in the morning. We do that. We spend all day at Six Flags, going to drive straight home with a stop in New York. And because the oldest guy wanted to dig for old rap albums in a used record store, and the other kid wanted to go by the Pele store and get some more jerseys, for European white trash, douchebags. Well, no, none of them are white trash. They're all Brazilian. They're all Portuguese. They're all, always.
There's a whole mix of trash there.
It's
like, commingled.
But I will say, all of them are gorgeous. Holy crap. I think the wife noticed that 20 years ago, with the exception of a couple people here and there. I think you have to be attractive to be a quarterback in the NFL. You got to be 6'4", shoulders, mile long, and attractive.
Anyone can throw a football 50 yards. But what's going to put butts in seats? You know what I'm saying?
Casting got thrown. So we get back, and we're at a tiny record store in the Bowery, and he's digging, and it was just so fun. It was that moment, him and his brother are just digging through these used record things, and he looks like Jason Muniz, 80 degrees, and he has the same this winter jacket he loves, his knit hat, and he's just digging through these old bins. I find literally on the bottom shelf, I had to move the dust off it, but I find these 2 boxes of comedy albums, which my first thought is, oh my God, this Weird Al one, I'm going to get it for Joe. Then I'm like, this Mom's Mabley album that they're asking $3 for, I get, but this Weird Al one wasn't $3. I'm like, yeah, it's a joke gift. He might have it or whatever. But then when you're like, yes, get it, I'm like, okay, good. But I did, because Dante the Comic had just been on saying, oh, kids don't know these people. And a friend of mine who has a great podcast, he just started do an open mic called Open Mic Pain. It's a really fun podcast, but they've only been in 2-3 months. I picked up a bunch of those albums that Dante's saying people should know their history. I got $185 worth of albums.
Oh my God.
It's a stack, but it's this big. I mean,
and do we have a record player?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because management, Duran Duran a couple of years ago started putting out limited special record things. So yeah, and records came back 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. You can go into Newberry Comics now and buy, freshly pressed LPs on vinyl.
And so I get up to the counter, and I say to the guy, I got $140. It's $185 worth of records, and I'm like, I think that's fair. You know what I mean? I'm like, that Mom's Mabley album for $3. Oh, Steve Martin, Comedy Isn't Pretty, the double album. They're asking $6. It's been sitting there for 30 years. You know what I mean? If they take $3, they'd be psyched.
Steve Martin's face, he rubbed his eyes when you pulled it out from the back of the room. He's been there a long time is what I'm saying.
The light shined in his face. And honestly, I get up to the counter. It's the room's tiny. And I say to the guy, it's like, hey, I got $140. Can we make something happen? Fuck, did I fail as a parent? The 15-year-old goes, oh, Papa, I have more money.
Oh.
I look right at him, and I do. I said, whose fucking side are you on? The guy started laughing, goes, give me 160. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then we get outside, and he's like, I'm so sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, this is a failing on me. This isn't you. This is 100%.
Listen, he's part Korean and part whatever. He's not part Jewish. Is that what I'm saying? Like he's got.
Oh no, I'm telling
What
you.
I'm joking about
The
here. Hello.
The Koreans are the Jews of Asia. They just somewhere his
That's true.
mother, his grandmother is rolling around in her grave in mold.
he's disgraced his family heritage. Yes.
What is that old? Oh God, Jackie Mason. I remember him saying like, that's why that's why God gave the world Christians. Somebody has to buy retail.
Yeah.
Oh, but I did when I'm like, whose son are you fucking? Oh, the guy just starts laughing.
Yes.
Grayson gives me, his $20, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, dude, it's worth the $20 for the story. Like, how what I mean?
I want to amend my thing. He's part Korean, part whatever. He's not part Portuguese. And what that's he doesn't know how to haggle.
Do you want me to send you the files to edit this up? I know I do.
No. Just put it out there.
Okay.
You know what? I don't care.
What's gonna happen?
I don't care. I don't care.
What's gonna happen? You get canceled. You've been begging to be canceled. So, and we had such a great time. We pull in the driveway 3:30 in the morning, Wednesday night / Thursday morning. Get inside. I let the little guy just sleep in the car because we build a bed in it. It's 1976. It's okay. Who needs seatbelts? I put, there's a whole bed back there. He's all good. I just, crack the windows, go inside. 4:30, 5 o'clock, like 12 and a half, 13 hours later, I'm looking on Instagram and I see the advertisement and I say, fuck. My wife's like, what's the matter? I hand management the phone. And she goes, well, don't panic. Maybe he doesn't want to go. Calls down on the Alexa and says, hey, Squish, come upstairs. There's a pause. You're not in trouble. So he comes upstairs. I hand him my phone and he looks at his mom and looks at the phone and looks at me and looks at the phone. It's like, are we going? I'm like, do you want to go? He couldn't comprehend such a stupid question being asked.
Right. How hard did he hit you when you asked him that?
He was a 1950 something science fiction robot that you put too much information in. And he the steam's coming out. He couldn't compute, can't compute. Manchester United, his beloved Manchester United was playing Arsenal in the Meadowlands, right where we were.
You went right past it.
Oh, so honestly, it's 24 hours later, so I had a show Friday night in Haverhill and got home at around like midnight. Right back. But this time he didn't sleep. I had the bed made in the back, but he just was so excited. Like the whole time we got to as you remember, the Vince Lombardi rest stop in the shadows of the Meadowland.
Yes.
And then we, about 4:35 in the morning, there was like construction. We got right down there, but it took a little while. I sleep for like 3-4 hours. The parking lot doesn't open until noon. And the ticket office doesn't open till noon. I'm like, we're just going to get tickets there. And like 10:30, I'm driving around the lot to kind of scope it out. Where's the best place to park so I can get out of here at the end of the day? And I see the ticket office and I'm looping around the other side. I'm like, oh my God, I can save $50 and get in here early. I'm on the other side of the parking lot and there's a kid, manning like not really a gate, but like, you can just move the little barrier, to get in. And we had just gone to Shake Shack and I hold up the bag and I'm like, I'm from DoorDash dropping off at Carol at the ticket office. Do you know what lot I'm supposed to be in? The guy goes, oh, just, it's on the other side, but you can cut through here and blah, blah, blah. Little guy wouldn't let me do it. He was so afraid. Oh. And this is the guy who I started teaching to drive when he was 11, only because he's going to drive a car before he's 16, and I want to give him a shot at getting the car home in one piece. He knows to say, I want a lawyer. We prepped him for the inevitabilities that he will be facing, but he was so afraid that we would get busted and they wouldn't let us into the game. So he wouldn't let me.
He wanted to play this straight. Yeah, he was sober. He was on his best behavior. He did not want anything to go wrong that would prevent him from seeing this game. And you know what? Good for him.
Joe, I tore my rotator cuff patting myself on the back. I thought I was a fucking genius. We would have been in the lot an hour early. not have to pay the $50, and it worked out though. It's fine. It's fine. We got great tickets. We got great tickets. Everything worked out. And it turned out the game was fantastic. And this little fuck blew me away. Like, he's so into the weeds on this that Arsenal, two-thirds of the way through the game, is subbing in 3 players. He doesn't follow Arsenal. He's a Man U kid. And he's like, oh, he came over on a transfer for Tottenham. Oh, this guy played in La Liga, and he's on loan. And I'm like, how do you know the reserves for Arsenal? You know?
Thanks.
But the whole atmosphere, turns out it was the most watched game in the state of New York, a European football game.
Wow.
82,260 paid people in attendance. It was really family. It was great because we park the car, we're playing we're playing a little footy in the parking lot with like the family next to us. But now we're walking up to the ticket office when it opens. 2 kids get out of their car. Let's say one of them's 5 and one of them's 3, one of them's 6, one of them's 4, and the older kid is wearing an Arsenal shirt, and he pulls it down so you can really see the crest, and he's pointing at the logo. And the 4-year-old gives my kid a thumbs down. And we're looking at them, and I'm looking at the mom, and she's looking at the kids, and we all just start laughing because my kid has a Man U jersey, and it's like, oh, it starts early. Oh, it was just, and they both, the stadiums are singing each other's song. The Arsenal people have their song. It was fantastic. There's a guy next to me, and it was great because he loved it. My little guy was into it, and they were chatting, and they were like, talking. This guy is huge. It's huge. I took a picture with him. Turns out like he's from Ghana. He's lived here since he's like 8, 9, and he played until he was like high school. Then he played basketball. He went to get a snack. He came back and he handed me a beer, like it was a Heineken. I drank it. I didn't say no. I didn't. Not like no.
Yes, when in wherever you are.
But then it's funny. So we're in the 4th row, and we go to take a picture, like one of the breaks, and he stands up and takes one step down, and he's all panicked. He's like, because we're right at the balcony. He's like, I'm afraid of heights. I put my hand on his back. I'm like, dude, I got you. And he starts. He's like 350 pounds. This guy's like 6'6", huge. And if I post the picture, I'm standing 2 steps above him, and he's still a little taller than me. And so I tried it. So I hand it to my little guy after I take a sip, and he's like, no, I don't want to drink beer. And I'm like, dude, it's fine. It's like the way it works is there's 2 European teams playing in the field. So it's kind of like an embassy. So you get to go by the European rules, and you can, and the way I said it is like, oh, that makes sense. But beer is still gross. So no, but dude, it was great. And we did, we drove down and back in the same day, ish. And yeah, so we left the house at midnight, and we pulled back in the driveway 1 a.m, Sunday morning. And
man, you just know how to live. You guys, you're just, you see something you want, and you just say, let's go. Let's get up and do it. And what I do is I sit and stare at glowing rectangles all day. Yeah. And then and you go, you know what? I raise my kids to do the same, so they will not have to face any sort of challenges or responsibilities until it's way too late.
But you're a Chinese speller.
Yeah.
Be happy. That's the thing. Well, you haven't made out with the wrong end. You haven't pulled a Kurt Cobain yet. He was gone by 20. He never made it to 30. So you're ahead of the game.
Oh yes.
So no, and so we get to LA. I was offered a comedy show, a comedy store thing. Again, thank you, Sally, that I said yes to. But then we found out Barcelona is playing Milan tomorrow in Vegas. So I've rented a car, and we will be leaving at 9 a.m. tomorrow to drive straight to Vegas to see Barcelona play Milan. And
when you get there, walk right into the propeller.
Right into the propeller. Oh, but to have to say no. Now, would I say no to the golden toilet and all? Probably, because those bookings just don't come every day. But comedy store's always going to be there. Comedy store. But yeah, so that's going to be the trip as I go out to that, and then literally I'm going to see your friend Jimmy a couple times. We've already gone to Universal twice. Have not got to ride Mario yet because we got to the park at 7:30. The park doesn't open till 8. We're in the park at 7:30. They let you in the park a half hour early, but you can walk down Main Street to where the rides stop. And so you're in the park technically a half hour before. Opens at 8. You run right to the escalators. You run right downstairs. And it's a 3-hour wait because it comes to find out, we did not know this, you can pay an extra $25 per person to get in early to just get on that ride. And enough people do that even if you plan early, even if you buy a season pass that you're only going to use for 2 weeks and you spend $600, it does not get you on those rides.
Not good enough.
So I figured something out. I kind of know how the system works. We got passes, so when we go back,
I told him you were with DoorDash.
I did, but this time he's not afraid. So I just pull out a name. I'm Carol. I'm dropping off a Carol in the ticket office from DoorDash. And I knew it was on the other side of the parking lot. So he'd be like, oh, just come through here and drive around. So when I drive around, nobody's going to say, it's like, how did this guy get in here? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, fine. And it's just, he cost me $50 there. The other one cost me $30 at the record store. It's like, dude, I mean, we're doing okay, but fucking put a tourniquet on the bleeding.
Yeah.
But so that's so like I said, and then the 15 minutes at Tao Comedy went really good. I've never posted something from a show, but I posted something today on Instagram from the show, the introduction. Because the guy made the look, this guy's been running a club forever, and he has comics write their own intro that he's going to read, that he didn't pre-read before calling me up. And he's like, this next comic.
You could write anything on that comic.
Yes, I did. And so he's like, this next comic comes for us in Boston. He's the co-host of the comedy podcast Carnival Personnel. He's like, looks at me, goes, did I say that right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, Carnival Personnel. And he's a great kisser. And then like everybody laughs. So did I get the cheap laugh before I got the mic? Yes.
It's called priming the pump.
Am I going for the cheap laugh once I'm handed the mic? Yes. Will I do a pratfall as I hand the mic back to get on stage? 100%. I'm not above any of that. But it was great. And then, like I said, then the Federal Bar / Knitting Factory on the 8th. Super excited about. And I'll be coming home, but how long I'll be staying, I don't know. It depends if the Golden Boot gives me a booking. But that's
you're really a good thing you're not hung up on that slight, because you would.
I can't. Well, the thing is, I can only remember that, because I can't remember the names of the other shows. But I'll see our friend Xtina and Nick at these cool shows. I'm like, I know the person who booked that. I wonder why they didn't call me. Oh, I suck. That's why.
And you're old. You're old.
I'm old. Like, really? Like, who really wants their dad coming to all these?
Yeah.
I would 100% get it. No,
hello, fellow kids.
6 months later, it was like little Susie. So it's been fun. And honestly, the fact that I have a place out here, the fact that I have a car out here, the fact that I have the only thing is it's just those dream squashers in management. And management is fine. Management has been saying the last couple of years, just go. Because she travels a lot for work and stuff like that. It's like, and she travels for a concert. She's like, yeah, instead of going, to see 14 more Duran Duran shows, my trips will be out there. You know what I mean? It's like, we wouldn't see it other like that much less. But I just can't be away from the Dream Squashers. I just can't. And it's like the oldest one, the last 6 months, the relationship is just different because he's a man now. It's just the conversations and the little guy who, had a really trying last couple of years is, this whole football thing has really kind of focused, and it's changed our lives. And now I'm a sports dad who's at the pitch 6 days a week. And, just before we left, he had he had a camp 9 a.m. to noon on one side of Lowell, come home, swim with his buddies for a couple hours, and then drive them to their team practice from 5:30 to 8. And that's our life. And it's a great fucking life. I have a great fucking life. If somebody offers me another $225 job that I can work 3 days a week from home, I think I would take it. And I would just fly out every week. I don't mind the long flights. I really don't. I really do not mind the long flights. So if I get like a 250 job and they're like, yeah, you can hybrid it, but we'll find out, but also if that goes into production and Bill is going to Europe for work for 2 weeks, he's home for a week, then he's taking his entire family tree, rented a yacht, and they're going sailing. And he said he will do the podcast after that.
Is the yacht named White Privilege?
Dude, it's funny because,
and I like you, by the way. If I get a job 225, 3 days a week, yeah, I think I could be. It is just like, listen to yourself, listen to you.
That's what you need to do out here. Like honestly, for us to have the same standard of living, you have to be the bare minimum, 150 to 2. I mean, that's the bit we want to be able to buy out here. We want it, this house. If we were in the same house out here now, as how the house is. This house was bought 6 years ago, 7 years ago for $5. There hasn't been a light bulb changed in it, and it's like now $850, $875.
Yep.
The neighborhood didn't get $350,000 better. The school,
you get a deal if you have good firefighting skills.
Hopefully we're far enough away from all those, but no, but that's the whole thing. It's like for the same standard of living. But if you take that job, I'm flying back and forth once a week on my own dime. Like they're not gonna, or okay, it's vacation. Everybody comes out, the boys come out here and stuff like that. Then it's 3 flights out here. So it would have to be that in order to do it, because the Universal gig, the Universal Music gig, it's true. It's like, they had told everybody 6 months ago, because everyone was working from home. Yeah, you're in the office 2 to 3 days a week. Which I don't get why, but I don't.
You gotta justify that rent.
Right? That's all it is. All it is. You own those buildings in Santa Monica, and God damn it, you're gonna.
You have to occupy them. You need to have a reason to have cleaning staff on site.
So yeah, no. If one of those jobs pop, then great. But otherwise, it's home doing the safe on Tuesday, and
with your face pressed up against the window of the golden, what's it called?
Toilet.
Golden toilet. You're just out there like a pauper in a Dickensian novel.
Another bowl.
All right.
What day is it? It's Christmas. So that's all well and good. The writer strike, is still happening. Is there any end in sight? Has anybody even hinted that that's?
No, I think they knew going into this that the writer's strike was going to be quite the long haul, and the producers, I think, were on board with that as well. I think they were like, yeah, I think we can stake this out and smoke them out for about 8 months, 9 months. Yeah. I think that, what was the prognosis as far as the producers were concerned, as far as how long it would take for all the writers in the United States to go hungry and broke and homeless? Yeah. I'm sorry, unhoused. At least hopefully the SAG strike will put even more pressure, unless of course they keep granting little waivers and exceptions.
Well, it's funny, they have these waivers and exceptions. On the other hand, they told influencers, it's like, I know you're not under the SAG umbrella, but if you ever want to be, you can't do this kind of content. So influencers who have never benefited by any of the SAG stuff, are now being told, yeah, you can't do movie reviews, and you can't promote these things, and you can't promote these different things if you want to possibly do a SAG thing.
And that's a real shitty scare tactic, because honestly, you think 5 years from now, when it goes away and everything's back to the way it shittily was, they're not going to go to influencers and have them, sign on for shitty deals. And
100% they will. So that's, but we're going to talk politics for just a tiny second. So today,
that was great. Good politics talk.
No, it's interesting. Tommy Tuberville. Am I saying the guy's right? He was a football coach. He's now a senator from Arkansas.
I don't know.
I think it's Arkansas. Tommy Tuberville. It sounds like a made up name. He was a college football coach, became a senator, just months before the overthrow that he was voted in, as far as that overthrow of the government, and was one of those people who, had text exchanges the day of, and bad dude, just an overall.
You're right. I was going to say good guy, bad guy. No, bad guy. You said Arkansas, so I was like, yeah, okay.
Well, he's the one that the White House was trying to call him and actually called a Democrat, like congressperson by mistake, and was saying X, Y, and Z. And that's how they knew what was going on with certain things. Anyways, he, for the last year, has been holding up military promotions. Big deal, right? Big deal. No, the Joint Chiefs of Staff have gone to the Senate saying, please, we have thousands of military families who are supposed to be transferred to bases here. Like these are like generals who are taking over this base, and these people are, rotate out and are now stuck, and their families are stuck because the military has a law. If you are in the military and you're stationed somewhere where a woman can't make medical choices for herself, that the military lets you take time and will transport you to a state. So if you're stationed in Kuwait and you decide, oh, I don't want to be pregnant, the military will transport you back to the States for a procedure or whatever. Or if you're in Arkansas, they will give you 3 weeks leave and transport you to a state. So because you can't choose to where you're stationed unless the military does away with that law. He will not grant any military promotions, which the Joint Chiefs of Staff have gone to the Senate to Mitch and Schumer and says, this is hurting our military readiness. It is hurting the military morale. It's also really screwing with these military families who have to roll their kids in school and can't and are supposed to move from. They work in this base in San Diego, but they've been transferred to this base in Wisconsin, and everybody's on hold, and it is short staffing us at bases around the world.
This guy is just sitting by the sidelines like, Mr. Potter going, well, suddenly I become quite important.
1,000%. And it's just him. It's just him holding it up. And
right. It's a good system we got going. Great, fantastic system. And at least I like it because it gives one person the power to buck the entire system when they see a cause that they are passionate about, and of course it's there to further the common good,
right? Not 100% right,
not for any other purposes.
And so today, Dark Biden said, okay, well, for the last 2 years, it's been in the works that we are moving the space control, center from Colorado to Arkansas. We're not. You just cost your state thousands and thousands of jobs, and we're going to keep it, and we're re-signing the lease, and everybody's going to stay in Colorado, and you just shot yourself in the foot. So thank you for screwing with military families. Thanks for screwing with military readiness, and thank you for costing your state, this huge opportunity for these great high-paying jobs in your region. So fuck you. So literally, it's official that the Colorado, and I don't know exactly if it's, and I still can't believe that it's a real thing, but Space Force, that they
made a TV show about it.
I saw season 1.
They made 2 TV shows about it.
I saw season 1. It was fun. Not enough to jump on board for season 2.
No, yeah.
But that just happened today. So done with politics, but yep. Once again,
what did Mitch have to say about it?
He was a little shaky about it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It actually left him speechless.
Yeah. It would.
Do I feel at all bad about that?
Nah.
Thank you. Let's see. You got any game reviews?
What am I playing? I'm not really doing anything new-ish. No, I think we'll skip the game review this week. It's summer, baby. Everybody's outside. Nobody's playing video games now.
I have not played a game in a couple months now, and I did. I brought Gotham Knights with me thinking, oh, maybe I'll throw this. I've been busy. I've been busy, doing book shows at famous clubs on Saturday night.
Video games are for, children and sad people.
And I'm a sad person, but
no, I'm sorry. I kid the video gaming community because I am a gamer. But if it's not Tears of the Kingdom, it's crap.
There's no sports anymore except European football, and I'll give you the update. It was Man U beat Arsenal 2-0 at Meadowlands Stadium last week. Oh, I was watching. So it was one of those things where Wrexham was a level 5 team, and now they're a level 4 team. It was a huge promotion last year. It was great. And they got to play Man City. I think it was Man City. No, Man U. They played Man U in a friendly in San Diego, but it was their reserve team. But it was still a huge honor. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing the second string New England Patriots and you're, you know what I mean? You know, or the Red Sox and you're a softball team. Anyway, the problem is their goaltender for Man U, the reserve goaltender, he apologized publicly. It was an accident. He was not paying attention, but he absolutely severely destroyed and punctured the lung of the number 1 player on Wrexham. And he might be out for the season, hopefully not his career.
Ooh.
And so even Ryan Reynolds was like, it was an amazing honor to get to play like, you know, Wrexham, not at the cost of Paul Mullins.
Right.
You know, and it was brutal. It was like one of those hits like in football or hockey that you don't want to see. Like, you know what I mean? And it was one of those things where everybody in the stadium saw it coming but him. And he was giving up 8 inches and maybe 60 pounds to the goalkeeper, who came way out of his box to play a ball that he's really not supposed to. It's like it should have been a red card, and even the officials afterwards said, yeah, if probably they missed giving that goalie a red card, because you can't, you know, if it's a play where somebody's going to like kind of have to bend down to head the ball, you can't scissor kick it, you know what I mean, and take off somebody's head. It's a dangerous play, and you have to kind of regulate yourself. So that was awful. And but yeah, the only other sport is me driving to Vegas to see Milan play Barcelona. I think I'm going to root for Milan, knowing nothing about the two teams except, you know, who really wants to root for dirty Spaniards when, you know, no, I've been to Milan. So that's the only reason I'm basing it. I think the little guy is a Barcelona guy, but the same thing. He's like, so-and-so plays on this and so-and-so. And he just trained. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the whole way. 5 hours am I going to have to hear about transfers, which is a great thing. Now, on to streaming, on to TV shows. Joe, what have you been watching?
Well, I have been keeping up with The Righteous Gemstones on HBO or Max. I enjoy it. I enjoy that show so I like listening to Danny McBride on the Smartless podcast a couple of weeks ago. That was entertaining. I mean, the show doesn't stop being awesome. The last, did you watch the most recent episode?
Everything. Yep.
It's what a roller coaster ride that recent episode was. Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. I'm not completely caught up. I apologize. We're recording this on Monday. I didn't watch Sunday night's show.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't watch. I'm sorry. I apologize. I lied. I am not completely caught up. I watched the second to most recent episode where there's a kidnapping.
Yeah. And you know, and it's so funny at one point, like, you know, they're watching like, you know, the news. And I'm watching on Fox News, breaking news on Fox. I'm like, of course I'm watching Fox. Like, even like that little detail was perfect. But yeah, okay, so you haven't seen the last episode. The last 3 or 4 episodes, dark.
Yeah.
Dark. When BJ has that like
that breakdown, yeah.
You know, I'm like, did he kill
right, like, yeah, like how bad did it be? Yeah,
dead. You know,
although it was a funny scene.
It was a funny scene. Yeah, Steve Zahn is just, that character is just.
Yeah, Steve Zahn plays the father, the kind of estranged father of the cousins to the 3 kids, the 3 Righteous Gemstone kids. And he's a, you know, he pops up in like a bunch of stuff like Steve Zahn. I first got onto Steve Zahn with That Thing You Do.
Right.
And you know, from there you would see like, oh, here, I remember him, that guy. And then eventually you learn his name, and rightfully so, because he went from being a competent actor to being a very good actor.
And it's funny because I couldn't place him at the beginning of the season. Now I'm blanking on it. He just did something last year that was huge and great.
Oh, 8-Bit Christmas, anyone? No, he wasn't 8-Bit Christmas. But
But he
I,
was just in something. I'm like, oh, right, because he looks totally different. Uh,
I'll have to IMDb it. You keep
yeah,
vamping.
yeah,
I'll look up Steve Zahn.
yeah. I don't want to talk about it anymore because until you see it. But yeah, that's such a great show. And Danny McBride. It's funny because when you're done watching a show, and they're like, oh, you might also like this, and his resume comes up, and you're like, holy crap! Like Danny McBride, I don't know. I mean, prolific. I don't know. I don't know anybody who's put out more content in the last 20 years than that guy. Like full
I
on,
mean, he's kind of like the American Ricky Gervais,
like yeah, but
ish.
full on series. And then you're like created by how many of the episodes he's written, how many of the episodes he's directed. It's
Yeah.
like he is just great. He is just really
Even in like he does like a Downy commercial where he's like riding this sort of like all-terrain vehicle around throwing Downy samples at suburban residents, and even that's funny.
even that's funny. Yeah,
And I don't
John
know, was he in? I mean, he was in Planet of the Apes years ago. He was in The White Lotus
White
recently.
Lotus. That's it. That's it. Season 1 of White Lotus. I did not watch season 2 because I hated it so much. I know it won all these awards, but it was White Lotus is these white people at this resort in a poor country just being the worst of the worst of the worst people, and his character was not one of his character was one of the only like redeeming characters. But I'm like, so it was like 3 or 4 episodes into Gemstones. I'm like, what do I know him for? But he looked so different.
Yeah.
And the other one, he was short haired and always wearing
Right.
like a polo shirt and like khaki pants and
In
stuff.
my heart, he'll always be Skitch from That Thing You Do, or the dad from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. Uh,
Yeah.
something from my kids' generation.
And now for me, it's Happy Texas.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's it. If Bill says, "Hey, come work on Happy Texas," I'm like, okay, yeah, I move away from the kids I could do it for a 3 or 4 month project, and go run that. And I said that to him. I said, did you just say, oh, you know what? I've done this and I've done this, but never produce a play. Why don't I do that in my 70s? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can, yeah, but Righteous Gemstones, we will table the rest of the talk because
Rats. I thought I was all caught up and then I forgot. Oops.
no,
You know what? I wanted to watch it last night and then it was like too early. It was like, I think it was just airing on HBO, so it wasn't on Max yet. Silly me.
it's great. And
then I had to get up for that. What do you call it? Job.
Well,
Job.
grown-ups have those. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. You got a parenting tip there, Joe?
Let's see. I would say if you wanted to be a good parent, and I mean a really good parent, I would say parent your kids. Like don't interact with them, take them to as many soccer games or concerts or what have you, anything that'll interact them with the real world as much as possible. That's what I say. Don't just park them in front of a screen because it that'll buy you some time, but then it'll also not so good. Let me just put it that way.
I understand.
Not so good.
So my parenting tip is, parenting tip, relationship, marriage tip too, maybe. Pretend to give a shit. It buys so much goodwill. Let me give you an example. I can't name a bunch of European football stars from the early 90s. However, because the little guy plays so much FIFA, and I guess there's a facet on it where you can put together historical teams like legends. So you can have Maradona from the 80s playing with Pele from the 70s on a team with David Beckham from the 90s. So he knows players all over. And he gets excited about random players who I've never heard of. And when he says, oh, do you know this player? Well, I'm guessing he's not going to get all goofy about defenders. So you got midfielders and strikers. So I got a 50-50 chance of saying, oh, yeah, he was a midfielder, right? And if sometimes midfielders will play up, and sometimes strikers will drop back. So even if you're wrong, you're kind of right, and it makes it sound like I know, and it just keeps his passion going, and it keeps him dialed in and focused. So my parenting tip is, you don't have to care, and you don't have to learn anything. Pretend to care.
It's kind of like your attitude towards all of life. Fake it till you make it.
Pretty much. And with this whole comedy thing, I'm pretending to care, and maybe one day if I play my cards right, I'll get to be on the golden toilet.
Oh man, I mean, was it named after the Trump White House bathroom?
It's got to be right. You know what? If I ever get booked, I'll ask. If I ever know.
Is there a toilet you sit on?
Yeah. Well, according to some of the pictures that I've seen, some of these other, amazing, much better than me comics, out there doing,
You've heard tell.
I really have. I really have. But Joe, thank you for indulging me. Sorry again, to Biff, who's under the weather, and hopefully, when I book somebody like next week, somebody out here I've been doing comedy with for a couple of weeks, to do, maybe he will, and he was another one. He went to F&H, kind of just to hang out, which is nice. Like I said, to have all those guys drive there, and then to have people drive to the show the next day, to have people drive across LA traffic 2 weekend days in a row, put pants on, to see me. It's humbling. It's humbling.
It speaks to your it speaks to your good nature. People want to be around you. Men want to be you. Women want to be with you.
I'm also, I meant to touch on this. It's been so long since I've seen. So I wanted to circle back just before I go. Thank you again for coming to the surprise 20th anniversary party that I had for management.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
It meant a lot that you were there. It meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to me. That was a pretty fun time, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Although I think she instantly forgot I was there. Come on, let's be real. She didn't care.
I tell you who didn't forget you were there. It's really funny. Like, one of her best friends, Michelle's there, who she travels a lot with to see Duran. When her husband, who's cut from the same loser cloth you and I are, found out about how we spend our time when they go on Duran trips, and was like, I want to come over.
He wants to watch fish episodes with us.
You saw how it was funny, because both Michelle and management were like, oh no. like it's one thing that they're friendly when they're in the same room because our shit brought them together, but if they actually start hanging,
it's like when AI starts talking to each other.
Yes 100%. But when he
pull the plug,
it's like, wait a minute, you watch fish and then card sharks and maybe a Columbo. And he put it on his own Plex thing. It's like he was so enthralled. And I forgot to say that was great, that, management's boss, for her to help set, that up. It was great again that my parents got to see you and, remind you about walking out on the bill. That is the best thing that has ever happened.
It seems to be their only interaction that they remember having with me. They've invited me to their home on many Christmas and, holiday parties and family gatherings, all the past 25 years. But the one thing they cling to is when they stumbled out of a comedy club when I was 18 years old and stiffed me with the bill because they didn't pay it.
How funny is that it's like Mike Contreras has been fired by Dick Doherty 3 times. I think that was like one of the highlights. I didn't know you could get, other than Billy Martin, get fired by the same people. But anyways, all right, the rest is up to you.
Oh, yes. Well, get well soon, Biff. Jacques, don't forget where you came from, man. Don't forget, don't leave it. Hey, by the way, you left the New England area, and it's probably best streak of weather we're expecting this week. We're going to have like 80 degrees, and it's going to be nice and mild. Hardly a tornado to be seen. It'll be fantastic. So, if I were a beach going person, I would definitely think about maybe going to the beach, but I'm so afraid of water. The women that walk Revere Beach, Revere Beach specifically. Hey, yeah, come on. Talk about it. Like, people of Walmart, but swimsuit competition. You know, like why? No, they're fine people. I kid because I want to be them. I want to have that thing in you that makes you want to take off your shirt and go into the ocean. And what's that thing when you're performing that black magic where you're floating on top of the water, but you're in control? I don't know. I've seen people do it on TV. I'm, you know what? I still think Jaws is really a documentary. I don't. And thank you for taking me to see that years ago at a drive-in theater. That was fun. We should do that again sometime. Maybe if you ever come back to Massachusetts, you know, if you're ever in the Massachusetts area, don't forget your old friend Joe, and you know, maybe we'll set a date. You know, but don't get too entrenched out there. You know, don't go in too deep, as they say. Who says that? Porn stars? I don't know. Anyway, don't forget.
She's a truly lovely girl. She's all the stuff of the world. This her desperate yearning keeps the fucker turning. So she's all pissed off at the world. He's all pissed off at her. It's that he can't be sure. Just the state she's in, not something that he did. Now he's all pissed off at the world. They're all pissed off at the world. They're all pissed off at the world. But they're easier to leave once they've made each other bleed. Keep them all pissed off at the world. Yeah, they're easier to leave once they've made each other